All right, so Stanley Richards, thank you so much for joining us. This
Thank
is your
you for
first
having me.
interview since you've been selected as the new commissioner of the Department of Correction.
It's my first one. I'm looking forward to talking to the public.
So your appointment makes history. You are the first formerly incarcerated person
Yes.
to lead the Department of Correction. You spent time, both on Rikers as well as upstate, correct?
State system, yes.
For robbery
Yes.
related to a case back in the 1980s.
Yes.
So how do you think that history-making experience will guide you as you take over as the leader of the city's Department of Correction?
Well, that experience in my return home and getting involved in reentry work really shaped how I see both the potential of our system and the sort of dysfunction of it. And so for the last 35 years, I have been working to be part of the solution about when people pay their price, pay their debt to society, when they come home, giving people an opportunity to rebuild their lives. And for those who are detained and incarcerated, use that opportunity to think about and get access to resources so they don't have to come back. The thing that changed my life when I was incarcerated was school.
School?
I went and got my GED, I went to college and graduated college, and I realized at that time that I didn't have to live the life I thought I was destined to live, cycling in and out of jail and prison. And I dedicated my life to showing others and supporting others so that they too would learn that they don't have to live that life. And so today, being appointed Commissioner of the Department of Corrections, I see the officers, I see the incarcerated people, and my job is to lift that up and make sure that our jails are safe, make sure that those that are detained have access to resources so that they can rebuild their lives and not come back.
This isn't your first time on Rikers Island. I mean, you served on the Board of Correction, we know,
Yes.
and you were also first deputy commissioner under Commissioner Vincent Schiraldi back in 2021, which was a very turbulent time for the Department of Correction. Some might say it was the height of the staffing crisis.
Yes.
So given that experience, I mean, you're well versed in what could happen when you take over. Do you think that at that time, the relationship between the city and the union was, to put it nicely, not very good? Do you think that, how would your relationship be with the union?
My relationship with the union is going to be in partnership. I think what the union is doing is protecting its members, making sure that its members feel valued, and that aligns with me. That aligns with my vision and my mission. So I want to be in partnership with the unions to make sure that the officers, number one, are safe and protected. Number two, that they don't feel isolated and thrown away, that they are valued. And I'm going to come to the table just like that. The kind of transformation that I want to see is, and the vision I have, is like a rising tide. A rising tide lifts all boats. So if I can work with the union, work with the correction officers, work with incarcerated people, work with community members and advocates to build a department that values every life, that tide will rise and officers will be safe and incarcerated people will be safe.
Have you spoken to the head of the union, Benny Basio, yet?
I have not spoken to him. I plan to do that as one of the first things I want to do. I received the email from the captains union, and I'm open to conversations, and I think they are as well. I think what they want is fairness, and they want to be heard. I will have an open door, and as opposed to developing strategies, implementing strategies, and then telling the union about it, I want them at the table. I want them helping us shape the strategies, because I don't think our end goal is different. They want officers to be safe, so do I.
How would you describe your relationship with the union when you were there previously in 2021?
I think, as you said, it was very rocky. We had significant officers out sick. Officers were doing doubles and triples. It was a really scary time. And I don't think the unions were brought in to the strategies, and so they felt isolated and unappreciated. That is not how I'm going to run my administration. They will be included, and I want to be in partnership with them.
Do you think that the union contract, as part of this remediation manager and this federal receivership that is going to happen on Rikers Island and in the Department of Correction, there is a mechanism for the remediation manager to reopen the contract and say things need to change here? Do you think that the contract needs to be reopened?
I think that's a conversation between law, the remediation manager, and the judge. I think for me, my role is to work with the remediation manager to address the 18 contempt orders, to see that, to then build a foundation that we could be in compliance with the Nunez decree. And I need the union, I need the membership, I need community members to make that happen. And I'm looking forward to working with Nick Demmel to make that happen. The legal part of it, the contract negotiations, will happen with law.
The monitor came out, the federal monitor, who precedes the remediation manager and obviously has been overseeing Rikers Island for more than a decade now, came out with their most recent report in the beginning of January. And once again, it detailed violent incidents and dysfunction. I want to read you just part of that report where it says, the department's poor functioning systems and ineffective practices and procedures, which combine to form a deeply entrenched culture of dysfunction that has persisted across decades and many administrations. These deficiencies have been normalized and embedded across many facets of the department's operations, persistently impeding reform efforts. We've been talking about this. We could have said the same quote in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, and on and on. What can you do to finally fix Rikers Island?
That's the seed planting work, is looking at all of those policies and updating them, making sure that we're doing training that is appropriate for the people that we have detained today. That is making sure that we have posts covered, making sure that we're modernizing our systems. I think the department right now relies too much on paper, and we need to get the department into the 21st century. So my job is to make sure that we begin to address those entrenched practices so that we can move into the 21st century, build the borough-based jails, have our officers safe, have incarcerated people safe, and give people that are in our custody an opportunity to build a different life.
We are on this unprecedented track of a remediation manager coming in. Nick Demmel, you mentioned him previously.
Yep.
There is some confusion because in past receiverships across the country, this has only been done less than a dozen times or so. Typically a remediation manager or a receiver comes in and has control over the entire facility.
Right.
Nonetheless, a commissioner is staying within this structure and you're going to have a job. But I think to a lot of stakeholders, it's confusing as to who is the real boss here? Where does the buck stop?
I think the phrase is, are you going to be in partnership? And the answer is yes. The remediation manager has the authority afforded by Judge Swain, and she's given him the authority to deal with some of the things that were entrenched in the department that prevented the department from being in compliance. I will work in partnership with the remediation manager to do those things, because when we do those things, that is about making sure that our jails are safe. His vision, his work is not out of alignment with mine. I think we are aligned in that what we want, safer jails, functioning jails, safe for staff and safe for incarcerated people.
But what happens when you disagree? Does Nick Demmel's word, is that the final word?
I think what you'll see is Nick and I working hand in hand. If we have differences of strategy, we will work those differences out. The North Star for Nick and the North Star for me is safe jails. We have seen too many people hurt, officers, incarcerated people. We have seen a system that has not grown and evolved with the population we serve. And so I know Nick's goal is making sure that his job to address the 18 contempt orders is about safety. My job is about safety.
Have you spoken to him yet?
No, I have not.
Do you plan on speaking to him in the near future?
Yes. I have a meeting scheduled with him later this afternoon.
Moving on to one of the first tasks you have within what Mabani has tasked you to do, what the mayor has tasked you to do, is there is a plan that is due within a couple of weeks. It was, one of the first actions he had within the first week of City Hall is within 45 days, the department and the law department was going to have to come up with some way to implement a law that was passed by the City Council a few years ago that would ban solitary confinement. That law has been flagged by both the monitor and the federal judge in Nunez as not necessarily being problematic, but perhaps questionable about whether or not it could be implemented given the dangerous status and the amount of violence that is occurring on Rikers Island now. The idea of isolating someone for only 4 hours after they've stabbed another detainee or if they've stabbed a correction officer, is that appropriate?
I think the interpretation of local law 42 is all over the place. What I want to do is to come into compliance with local law 42, and that plan is underway now. I've been briefed on that plan. It's not finalized, but to come into compliance with local law 42. And as I understand it, local law doesn't prohibit removing someone for a violent infraction. It has parameters about how you treat people when you remove them. It has parameters about how much time you can keep them isolated in a small cell. It has requirements for you to engage with people who have been removed for a violent infraction. And we need to work toward that. Because I think at the end of the day, and what we've learned over years and decades, isolating people for 23 hours, isolating people for 14 hours a day, doesn't bring safety.
The previous administration, Mayor Eric Adams, said that solitary didn't exist on Rikers Island. Do you think, you've been around for a very long time, you've been to Rikers Island many, many times through your work with the Fortune Society, through the Board of Correction as first deputy commissioner. Is that true?
I couldn't tell you what he was trying to define or what he was looking at, but the fact that the City Council passed a law, local law, is the fact that they felt really concerned with whatever practice was happening within the department was a practice that was causing more harm than good. And so I can't speak to Eric Adams' understanding of what was going on in the department. I can tell you, underneath my administration, we're going to work really hard to ensure whatever we do to bring into compliance with local law, we're going to do it in a way that keeps officers safe, keeps the people safe, incarcerated people safe, and provides people an opportunity to change their behavior.
And then finally, the last facet of your job, in some sense, is going to be how to find the path forward. You were on the Rikers Commission, you have experience and knowledge and what the city needs to do to potentially close down the facilities on Rikers Island. The previous administration acknowledged, and the Rikers Commission acknowledged, that it's not going to meet the deadline of August 2027. When do you think Rikers Island will close, and what will you do about the rise in population? Just looking at the statistics from January, there were 6,798 people, nearly 6,800 people on Rikers, far more than you need to have these borough-based jails.
Well, I think what we will be doing is pulling whatever lever we can pull to make sure that we're reducing the population. And that means working with the district attorneys to make sure that we're expediting cases and getting cases processed so that the over 2,000 people who are on the island right now for over a year or 2 years, those cases get adjudicated. 2 is to engage service providers, alternative to incarceration providers and diversion providers, to safely divert as many people as we can. If they don't need to be detained, if they're not a threat to safety and community safety, can we get them into a diversion program and alternatives to incarceration program? The third is to use the authority given to me through the 6A program, that whether or not we could safely monitor and engage people in the community as opposed to being detained. I'll be working with the New York State Department of Correction and Community Services Commissioner to make sure that people who are state ready have been sentenced, their cases have been adjudicated, they are ready to go upstate, that they get processed and taken into state custody. And I think if we do all those things, we could begin to chip down the number, which will put us on a clear path to the borough-based jails. That would also demonstrate to the City Council and to New Yorkers that this administration is serious about two things: community safety and closing Rikers, building a borough-based jail, and centering our detention facilities on the humanity of those who work there and those who are detained there.
When do you plan to visit Rikers? And for a long time, the Office of the Commissioner has been off-site in a building in Queens, not far from Rikers, but certainly not on an island. Do you plan on having an office and spending much more time on the island?
I will have an office on the island, as will my executive team. I think it is our responsibility to be out there, to be present, to let the members of service know that we see them, we value them, to let incarcerated people know that we're going to support so that they could build new lives and hold them accountable if they hurt and violate someone else's safety. And so that takes presence. So all of my executive team will be on Allen every day.
I hope we can come with you someday.
Yes.
Okay.
Love to have you come.
Okay.
Thank you for watching our YouTube channel. Let Spectrum News be your resource for balanced, in-depth political coverage, and click the subscribe button right here. You can also download our app or watch us on TV to learn more about the candidates, where they stand on the issues, and more. We'll see you then.